Okay, hello again. It has been a very rich morning, and I will not try to tax you so much intellectually. So just think about this, and it is kind of technically spoken word because I'm performing the poems, but it is not pure spoken word because I changed tack, and I decided because my talk was called "I'll Be a Mirror," and these, at least the first three poems, are mirrors of what I raised in my talk, poetic mirrors, so to speak. So the first poem is the poem that I wrote when I was in transit in Hong Kong. So it's called Gate 26. The arch vaults across tarmac, connecting terminals beyond the glass walls of Gate 26. Airplanes taxi to and fro, ocean liners steaming to port. Grounded, the airplane is a lumbering beast, fragile, prone to a brushed wingtip, a faulty gangway. Each maneuver attains the delicacy of an operation. But in the air, it is confident, bends the laws of gravity with the certainty of a traveler heading home. And we are here for the length of time it takes to cross the arch, the transit through security from arrivals to departure, returning to gate 26. The airplane has never left the gate, and we have never really gone anywhere, unable to change who we are, though we often find ourselves between breaths, ghost notes that play in the turbulence, songs of driftwood that keep airplanes in the air as they curve under the stars, forever passing between light and dark. Poetry, for me, often has a very socially connected element. And this poem is called Lorry. I wrote this very recently because there were a series of fatal accidents involving migrant workers in lorries, and they were flung out of lorries. And there was this push to transport workers in buses. But one of the reasons given was that there's not enough buses because there are 280,000 migrant workers in Singapore. We don't have enough buses. So the compromise was to install speed management devices on the vehicles. So this poem speaks as a lorry. My body is a lorry in need of paint, plangent motor juddering against street lights and double yellow lines where I should not be waiting. My battery, with its rusty leads that start well before sunrise, offers revolutions along the road from the dormitory beyond the trees. The dial for the radio somewhere between sternum and rib, blueprint for the condominium with its penthouse pool inside my big toe. I am someone's subcontract, a licensed plate in the dominion of unnamed billionaires. When I run out of petrol, they never admit I run off petrol. Today, another body crashes into me. I break open, smaller bodies tumble blood and bone, brittle without their yellow safety. Because this is not a construction site. This is skin that offers passage. I want to bind them to my body. The way I hold down crates and beams and furniture for mortgaged dreams, double, triple snagged around me. But softer bodies have no right to safety. They are flung the way a god hurls stars into galaxies. When I come to, I am not facing sky but the tarmac, warm even at night. The heat from so many bodies pressed against a surface that keeps its silence. Perhaps you should sit on me too, should feel every bump and break, should not be underwritten by anything than money owed for years to an agent. You should speak with calloused voices and hold up small screens with your babies waving back against traffic. and I would gladly carry those bodies back to their dormitories. I talked to you about Bukit Kasih, and this is the poem I wrote about it. Bukit Kasih, the Hill of Love. A tourist is half pilgrim, half ghost, haunting sulfuric slopes until the perfect image is taken. Dip your feet into venting pools with traces of hell that steam in its envy of heights or what faith aspires to, while just beneath lies folk magic for brown belief, closer to the land or numbers for the next lottery. Remember, a blooming sarai may bring a person great luck, and the bitterness of the papaya leaf wards off sorcery. To climb the hill, walk backwards. Remove all your clothing, one button at a time. Keep the leaves on. Keep the candle from dripping into nostrils. Sit with other bodies, other stories. Listen. The way down the hill mimics stations of the cross, steep and winding, with steps that twist ankles and question your desire. And at the bottom of the hill, food stalls with corn and eggs boiled in hot springs await. One more poem for you all. This one is slightly more lighthearted. I thought I shouldn't end with something too heavy. And it's a poem that celebrates language, the power of language, and the need for language. It's called The Language Hospital. Are you always reduced to silence? Do you suffer from diseases of the letter? If you get into a word-related accident, do you know where to go for help? Sometimes we all have to visit the language hospital. The doctors are poets, and the nurses, well, the nurses will be their muses. Because the poets are physicians of language, they should get paid for all the ironic incisions, blank verse, bandages, and parodic prescriptions of words they provide. But before patients get to see the poet, they have to go through triage to test the brain, heart, and lungs. Describe how the sun would feel if he stopped burning up. Fill in the blank. Your hand and mind beats as certain as. Now, breathe in slowly and try to breathe out a metaphor. Those in critical condition, incoherent, at a loss for words, will be sent to the emergency room if it's a heart attack, a searing pain from a lack of punctuation, a clogged vocabulary of ventricles, if it's a stroke, a reduction to monosyllables, a paralysis of reason. Rush them into the operating theater. An adrenaline shot of pure alphabet will keep them alive. At the language hospital, there are procedures to remove tumors of words turned into themselves, diseased and ugly, throbbing from badly used tenses or bloated syntax. And for those who have exhausted their word count, the hospital resuscitates a spluttering heart with a word transfusion, a grammar beyond A, B, and O. Patients will resuscitate their words with originality until they can speak without the aid of a dictionary or a thesaurus. And let's not forget the therapy room for first date failures, gushing, "You look pretty hot." Might have worked when you're in kindergarten, but not when you're 16, or at least it should be accompanied by a description of beauty by seashores and evening light, of our pastel youth made from laughter and stars. When patients have stabilized and their word count is back to normal, we test your reflexes by making you write a haiku about the frogs in the pond outside. And there's also a fully stocked gift shop with bouquets of flowery phrases, premium smooth chocolate words in expensive boxes for relatives who have forgotten to bring even sympathy along. So, if you don't want to visit the language hospital, watch your words wisely. Keep them from a state of emergency. Spell in full. Exercise your vocabulary. Read a balanced diet, but always leave space for poetry. Thank you.